Hey guys, I just wanted to make a video. It's been a while. And so I'm working. I like on the last video I was talking about I was working on the game and I was trying to break into the gaming industry. I've actually got a job at a AAA studio now. I'm I'm probably gonna I've been there for a little bit over a month. I'm probably gonna be leaving pretty soon. AAA sucks. The job is just a corporate slog. It's when I was working at a startup, probably in like, a day or two, I would accomplish more work than I accomplished in AAA. The corporate bureaucratic slog takes me about a month to do. What I could do literally in a day or less than a day, like in startup, when I just don't have all this red tape and everything like that that I have to navigate. Um, so. Yeah, no, I'm looking at indie studios and just yeah, if that doesn't work out, then just like another startup or something to go to where I could actually like do things and be productive and stuff like that. And I am not just doing the going through the motions of being this kind of like just corporate team member that oh, I need to do, this basic thing. Okay, well, you need to talk to this person, but this person's not available right now because he's on vacation. So you can talk to these other people, but only on Wednesday. And if it's not on Wednesday, then you have to wait until next. It's just corporatism, and I've really forgotten. It's been a really long time since I've worked at a big corporate job, and I forgot just how much of a slog it can be. And AAA gaming, in particular, um, is that's exaggerated. So it's even more like if you work in big tech, I've worked in big tech companies and stuff like that before too. And that kind of work could be pretty corporate, but nothing compared to AAA. AAA is just like I feel my soul leaving my body when I'm not, when I'm doing my 8 hours of work every day. And so like not for me. But I'm also working on my game a lot. And this is what kind of like the topic of the video that I'm making now is that I'm an independent game developer. I was talking about how I was experimenting with Go and Raylib and Zig and Raylib and this and that. There's various and I've experimented with every engine under the sun, up until the point where like I've implemented movement systems, collisions, hitboxes, hurtboxes, HP systems, stuff like this, and all of the different ones. And I've discovered some things about the way that I like to design games and I know very specifically like the kind of like what I want to build. Um, and if now using the solution that I've arrived on that I've been building in for like a week or so, um, I'm going to be able to achieve that. And that is Bevy Rust. So, there's this engine, and I'm not going to like start it up or whatever because there's some art assets on there and I don't want to like reveal anything yet. But there's this engine called Bevy. Um, and I'm gonna all these YouTube links and everything that I have up, they're up for a reason. We'll go through them next because it leads into the point that I'm trying to make specifically with all of the experimentation and stuff like that that I've been doing. Um, so there's this engine implemented in Rust. It's called Bevy engine. It's an ECS entity component system. I really like ECS design. I just like working with it. They came up with it like people, game designers in the past that have been doing this kind of stuff for a long time came up with it because it's like efficient use of system memory and but like that's great, but I think that like you could still get with modern stuff if you're building a 2D pixel art game like I'm building. Efficiency isn't really something that you need to be too concerned about. It's always nice to write nice code and to be clever about stuff or whatever, but anyways, Bevy ECS system. It's pretty cool to work with. It's Rust. So I have fun with Rust, with their crazy type systems, with their, the turbo fish syntax, a million ways to do everything. Always striving for what's idiomatic. It's fun. It's a lot of fun and it's fun to learn and it's fun to play with. A lot of people would be super bored and would go crazy. with this kind of stuff. And some people love it. I'm more on the side where I like it. I'm not a really good programmer. I don't consider myself a really good programmer, um, but I'm having a lot. I have a lot. I've always had a lot of fun writing Rust. I've done it at work lately for a few different things. I learned it originally for fun, just because I wanted to become a better programmer. I could program in like, Python and Go and stuff like that. All these garbage collected, interpreted languages. Go isn't interpreted, but you get my point. Um, and I was just like, hey, I want to kind of step up my game a little bit. I want to understand, memory management, how memory works and programs and stuff like this. And so I read through the Rust book years ago, and built little CLI things that did little things at work, for me or whatever. That wasn't really that big of a deal, but I never really got to kind of like balls deep in the language, if you will. And now I'm definitely taking a next step into it. Again, I'm still not a great programmer, but Rust is a lot of fun to write, and the Bevy engine, I think it's pretty well designed. It's pretty intuitive. For you don't have an editor with it. Everything is code. I think they're working on an editor right now. Release 0.15 came out recently. There's still no editor for it, but I think that there's significant movement in making it you able to have a modular editor that like it plugs into it. And so yeah, just a lot of fun to work with. Cool way to think about everything, and it's fun to and this is like leading to my next point. And like right now I'm in a building state and everything, right? Like that. I mean, whatever. I may as well just build and run it. I don't have my maps loaded. I just changed my. So I build my maps, and this is just a test map. So with different properties and metadata and stuff like that that's on them. So the darker squares have colliders, the green squares don't have colliders. I'm just experimenting with like colliding with stuff, so that way I'm able to paint kind of like just maps, easy, not anything too sophisticated. Right now, I'm working on some like actual art assets that I want to use in the end game too, but those are more or less just for concepts and everything. I'm gonna do the art myself also, and so I'm making the art in Sprite, ASEPRITE. People that know. It's a cool tool. You can get it from Steam. Um, it build pixel art assets in it or whatever, and then basically like you could build tile maps and stuff like that in Asaprite, which is a feature that came out in a relatively new release of recent release of Asaprite. And you could import those tile maps into tiled. You could create map roles and everything like that to make it really easy to kind of like design maps and stuff like that, and then export those maps into something called the TMX format. And then include it creates a bundle of things. So you have your tile set that you use, which is in TSX. You have your map file, which is comes from both of them come from tile, but the map file in tile is TMX, and then your PNG, you co-locate all of those files into your game project, and then you can load it up through. And the new module that I'm using for it is not that is Bevy Tiled Loader. Um, no, I'm sorry, not Bevy Tiled Loader. Bevy ECS Tile Map. I was using Bevy Tiled Loader, but with it's not really compatible. It's 0.15, whereas ECS Tile Map is they have releases that match the latest release of the Bevy engine itself. And so um yeah, and then I'm using Rapier for my collision, my physics and stuff like that. Right now I don't have any art assets loaded, so you know I could just run it really quick, and there you go. So it's basic. I've got a camera that's following this player object. You can't really see that it's moving anywhere because there's no art, but inside there's a collider on it, that those little lines that are going through it and that are surrounding the box is like the collider information. And this collides with stuff. And I got an HP system. I subtract HP, add HP. I have an ability system, so it's not the combat's going to be a little bit different, and making I'm bringing in a lot of MOBA elements, and it's going to be really team based, but the teams are like AI teams that you're playing through. But the setting of the game is a traditional kind of like 2D top-down Zelda-like game, but instead of just like having a bunch of random enemies or whatever, that you have a set of abilities and attacks and stuff like that to get through. It's very AI based and very team dynamics based. And so you have different enemies, for example, like ones that could CC you, and then ones that attack you with like AoE damage that scales over time. So you'll get immobilized by one thing and then, big damage by the other. The damage is easy to avoid, but if you're immobilized, then you can't avoid it. And it gets much more complex than that. But the idea is that the encounters are with a very finite number of entities, and those entities use teamwork to try to like take you to stop your progression or whatever throughout the game. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying the systems that I've developed so far with Bevy, and that kind of leads me into, I was watching. I used to watch, and I've stopped recently, and we're going to go over why. Again, it's been what, how many minutes now? Have I been creating this like 11 minutes, and the substance of the video. Um, that I'm trying to get to is that, there are a lot of content creators online. So a common strategy that indie developers are using right now, is they will make devlogs and stuff like this as they're developing their game. Maybe some tutorials about the engine that they're using, or basic like what I say junk food content is just like slop content that is generalized over the game development thing. Which engine do I use? How do you become a developer alone? Just like these really general and kind of vague questions that a lot of people that are starting their indie careers, or that are thinking about it, or maybe they're developing a game for fun or something like that, like questions that would be appealing to a lot of that a lot of these kind of people would be interested in. The thought is they search for that on YouTube, the video comes up, they watch that. And so that's the first point that I want to make here. And none of these creators that I've brought up here on the side that we're going to go over, none of it's not a personal attack on any of them. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. And well, not a personal attack on anybody, because I don't have any personal ill will towards anybody, but it's going to be a little bit more pointed towards like the indie game YouTubers. Um, but again, nothing. I don't mean anything personal. I don't mean to insult anybody or anything like that. And so get out of here. So you've got these sorts of channels, and these aren't game creators or anything like that, but it's going to help me illustrate my point. So I'm 36 years old. People that are unfortunate enough to be my age or older probably remembers the time when you were a kid where there was like TV. No YouTube. The internet wasn't really a thing that kids did in the mid 90s or whatever. What did I used to do when I was a kid? I lived in the middle of nowhere in Southern California, up in the mountains. And my fun thing was, there were some kids that lived in my neighborhood, and we would all get together and find fences around the neighborhood and jump over them. Like see what the highest fences that we could jump over were. That was a big game that was very popular when I was a child, that I would play with like the neighborhood kids and stuff like that. And if you like to watch shows, like there's it was one Saturday morning, I think, was a cartoon marathon time on Saturday mornings. That was like 3 or 4 hours or something like this. The Simpsons, I watched The Simpsons. South Park, when I got a little bit older, when I was like the late 90s or whatever, I was like 9 years old or 8 years old, or somewhere around there. And I would stay up late and watch like South Park on Comedy Central or whatever. And it was, they bleep out their curse words and stuff. Like I'm so, like I'm not supposed to be doing this or whatever. I'm not supposed to be watching this. So I'm like really, I feel really cool or whatever. But it was like Saturday mornings were cartoon time, right? So if I wanted to watch like a billion episodes of some cartoon that I like, that what like I didn't have the ability to do that at this time. And so there could be really unique things, like there are game review shows like that on Tech TV that with Adam Sessler before he turned into a fucking cuck. Yeah, that show with Morgan Webb on Tech TV, and they did like reviews of games and stuff like that. And I used to like religiously watch that every week when a new episode would come out, because I really liked games even when I was a kid. And but I didn't have the option to just like watch 20 hours of Adam Sessler's game review show if I wanted to. Uh, Now so this guy right here on YouTube literally makes probably hundreds of hours of YouTube videos for spanning at least 10 years, 1 decade about Zelda. Like not Nintendo, not 2D top down games, not games in general. Not blogging, not anything like that. Zelda. Zelda. This channel is just Zelda. And I mean these videos are like 72K views. He has almost a million subscribers. Credit to him. I mean, cool cottage industry. You're probably making bank from it, like no personal hate or anything like that, but to me there's something that's just sort of, and people do like I don't know, for all I know this guy probably maybe he has other channels about different subjects that are like hyper focused on the subject or whatever. That's fine. Like I said, it's not a personal attack or anything like that, but it's just crazy to me that there's a channel with hundreds of hours of content about like Zelda lore. Like it's lore stuff. It's like lore stuff, gameplay stuff, review stuff, whatever, everything centering around Zelda. um the Matrix, this is another one that I found, Matrix Explained, which is like which is like the Matrix, just again, potentially hundreds of hours of just like the Matrix stuff. Like, oh, the Oracle, sorry, Neo, the Oracle thing that's on here, and here's this Matrix guy that's on. What was this? This is the guy that was in the Matrix that was in the train station when Neo was stuck in a train station. The second one, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Last time that I saw this movie was like 15 years ago, but like oh, what was his deal? Let's make a 8-minute video about the train station guy in the Matrix 2. It's just it's wild, and but like this content is available now, is what my point is. And so if you have a morbid curiosity about the Matrix for whatever reason, and people get weird curiosities all the time, they dive really deep into subjects, there's nothing wrong with that. I do that a lot myself, about like the random weird stuff. Like I recently got a Shiba Inu puppy, and I really like having a puppy. I've never had a puppy before. I had a dog when I was a kid, but I never had a puppy before. And like I've cleaned up piss and shit and stuff like that a few times, but like for the most part, I find the experience of like raising a life that's completely dependent on you. It's really cool, like pet ownership and stuff like that. And so I was thinking, like, okay, like if I stay in America, and get a house or something like that, like maybe I want to get another dog, so that way the Shiba has another dog to like be its buddy and to play with and stuff like that. When I'm busy, when I'm making videos, or when I'm make coding or working or whatever, like the dogs could play together and stuff like that. That would be cool. And I got really interested in like border collies, because border collies are super smart, and they have like, I think they have like cool energy or whatever. And the dog that I had when I was a kid was part border collie, and it was like next level smart for a dog, and that's a border collie thing. And so I was like watching a bunch of content about border collies, right? And so like you get really interested in subjects for various reasons, and you dive deep on them or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. um but like the point is that, back in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, this stuff didn't exist. You couldn't just deep dive into a subject, and just on YouTube alone there's like hundreds of hours of like one movie from one channel that you could just sit and watch. So that's a very weird concept, and that leads into, I think, the indie game development journey. And so there are indie game developers that, because I think in many cases, strategy is make devlogs, talk about your game and stuff like that. You could gain a following from doing that because you're giving people useful information on like how to use engines, or like what your path as an indie game developer that has achieved some sort of success or something like that has been, and a lot of people would be interested in that. There's a force multiplier in there, in that you're building a personal brand for yourself. And if these people find your content to be enticing for whatever reason, um you're kind of building a audience, not just an audience, but a market for yourself, a market of people that are going to like wish list your game on Steam, and that are going to purchase your game when you release it or whatever. So it's a relatively good strategy. But YouTube, from what I understand, I'm by no means a successful YouTube creator or whatever. I just make videos sometimes for fun that get fucking no views. I don't even look at my creator dashboard or anything like that because I don't really care. Um, but from what I know about like content creators that I do watch and stuff like this, is that that you get punished in terms of like engagement and of like platform amplification. Then putting your videos on people's walls or whatever. If you don't consistently, in some kind of like relatively rapid cadence, produce and upload videos. And so what that means is that if you're doing this kind of thing because you're using it as a force multiplier for the success of the game that you're working on, then you're incentivized to like make a lot of content. And like, if I'm making content about my game, like the game that I want when it's complete, which is like a year to maybe 2 years of work, in art, programming, music, everything that goes into creating a game, right? Um, it's gonna be maybe 10 hours, maybe 10 hours. Like it's a short experience that you have. Hopefully, it's going to be a ton of fun, and it could lead to s- some success, and I could start a studio or something off of it. Same trajectory that a lot of these people are on, or whatever. But like, I can't, if I wanted to take this model and follow this blueprint or whatever of like, okay, I'll devlog and do this and do that for it. It's just like, how long until like I've made like 100x amounts of hours about the process of making a game as compared to the actual like playtime of the game that I'm creating. And also, like, when do I run out of things to say like about it? And so I was really deep into, this guy, and a lot of stuff that I don't have on here, their insights and stuff like that. It's like, okay, they've been successful at this. What do they have to say like about it? And is it gonna, and I actually started to find like over time, this person, Thomas Brush or whatever, again, no personal attacks on anybody or anything like that. I'm just talking about this model for creating this sort of content and everything like that. First of all, the his claim to fame, like the first game, this game called Pinstripe, I don't know, good reviews on Steam. I tried playing it. It's I don't think that it's a good game. This is another concept that I want to get into in the future. It's just not something that's engaging to me. It's not something that's interesting to me. Um, and it feels a lot like a Unity game to me, and that's something that I want to talk about too. There's a lot of games that have a feel, and it's generally Unity because Unity seems to be the thing that most like new indie developers go to like create games. And there's this concept that I heard on on some something like this or whatever, and I thought that it was a pretty good point, and it's called enginification. So like enshittification and stuff like that they say about various things. With modern indie games, there's an enginification of the games, and what that means was that these engines, Unity, Unreal, etc., establish patterns for how to develop on their engine to produce a game. And on this, there are metas, right? And you could say like a meta is a strategy that is so superior to all of the other strategies that you're kind of dumb if you don't follow the meta. And every once in a while, metas for competitive games or whatever get broken, but there's downtown Austin problems. I'm not going to edit this either, so sorry for the noise. This place is ridiculous. People are shooting each other. Jeez. There's always sirens going on. It's been getting a lot better recently, but it's still one night about like blaring sirens, please. Um, so yeah, so like on a lot of Unity games, for example, if I play a 2D platformer, right? I'll be like, oh, this jump when I jump, the way that my character falls, the way that the gravity works, the way that it feels when I push the button and my character goes up and how far they travel and stuff. It feels very samey to like a billion other games that I've played before. Oh, what do you know? These billion other games are also built with Unity, and they probably they're using the same physics stuff, and they have the same gravity that's applied to all of them. And you watch a tutorial or one of 5 billion tutorials that exist, and oh, if you want to jump, this is what you do, and then that's what happens. And so there's a very samey feel to stuff, and this gets to the point where I was talking about the soullessness of corporatism in AAA gaming and stuff like that. Even with indie gaming, like a lot of this guy's content, and I mean, there's this. She's new, so she hasn't made, and I watched a couple of her videos, but she hasn't made as much content or whatever. But it's kind of following the same patterns, like bunch of games. So first day of game development and seventh day of game development and et cetera, et cetera. Like and then this and these guys are kind of again, no personal attacks or anything like that, but out of what I'm trying to kind of like allude to get to, these guys are kind of the worst examples or the best you could say examples of that in like this is what you do, right? A lot of these videos, a lot of this content all together, you mash all the videos together and stuff like that. What it is it's kind of a paint by numbers. Like this is how you go from not being a game developer to being a game developer and like being a successful game developer. Now, um, like in my opinion, a video game is a work of art. Like it's art. Like you literally draw the art for it, and then you code, and it's like gamey code. Like oh, play my game. Like you're in a game loop now, and here's a bunch of enemies that are trying to kill you, and you kill them instead or whatever. Like it's art and like and it has music in it. And you in my case, me and a friend are making the music for the game also. And so it's art. It's like layers of art. It's a bunch of art. It's a very, very artistic expression. And paint by numbers doesn't go with artistic creativity to me at least. Like I personally. And a lot of people do, like, poppy, paint by numbers, K-pop, J-pop, Taylor Swift kind of shit, poppy country, whatever. People like that stuff, and that's fine. Like, I'm not here to say that they're wrong or anything like that. It doesn't appeal to me. It's not an art form that I like. It feels very paint by numbers. Like, I hear something and I'm just like, oh, this was like designed by committee. There was like a group of people, like the K-pop band. I just know this because an ex-girlfriend of mine used to love them, called New Jeans, right? They're all the rage. I think they're the most popular K-pop band right now. They have been for a while. Maybe it's changed. I don't know, because I'm not with her anymore. I don't really follow the scene or anything like that. But yeah, I like listen to their stuff, and I'm just like, I could, I could transport myself to the boardroom where they like meticulously designed this song to be catchy and appealing and stuff like that. And it's just not appealing to me. Super popular. A lot of people like it. If you like it, cool, more power to you. Not shitting on you, not saying you're dumb, nothing like that. That's just not how I like to engage with art. I don't. I look at things like, like I hear New Jeans or something like that, and to me, that's just like what a fluorescent light bulb would sound like if it was musical. And so, the emergent pattern in a lot of these things, because what these content creators get rewarded in terms of like like success of their content and stuff like that, is what people are interested in. And it's like, I want a paint by numbers solution so that way I could make games full time. That's what I do. And it's like, that's it's almost like that whole concept just doesn't like work, like doesn't seem like it would work to me. It's like, no, it's art creation. It's not paint by numbers. Like, look at a lot of really successful independent games. Stardew Valley is the first thing that comes to mind. So what a lot of these people will tell you is a lot of advice that I've heard on multiple channels, multiple times in multiple different ways, is like, pick an engine and become an expert at it. Don't go between engines too much. Obviously, I already failed at that because I used every fucking engine that there is. Um, because I wanted to figure out what was the funnest for me to work with and what I liked creating with the best and how I liked creating things, and et cetera, et cetera. And that takes trial and error. And there's time, and it's not wasted time. If you're looking into something and you're just like, this isn't fun for me to work with. I don't like working with this tool. Let me try something else. Also, this tool has this in common with this other tool, and these are things that I don't like. Oh, I didn't know that I would like or dislike this aspect of creativity for game design or whatever, because I'm like new to it. And so like I'm discovering that about myself. That's not a waste of time. That's super important. And like a lot of these sorts of channels will be like, oh, if you go this deep with this engine and then try something else and you go just as deep with it, then it's like you're wasting time. And it's like, no, like, because it's in pursuit of like artistic achievement and artistic expression. I don't think that you could qualify wasted time and juxtapose that to like non-wasted time so easily. I don't think that it's not paint by numbers. And so like that. Oh, and you got to think about marketing and do this and this and this for marketing, and it blah blah blah. And it's just, like, I just don't. And then they contradict themselves, so they'll make a video and then like a year later they'll make another video, and, oh, I was wrong about all of that stuff in the first video. So if you watch the first video and you took it all to heart, you're getting information and internalizing information, perhaps working it into your workflow, that the purveyor of the information in the first place says is wrong and not the right thing to be doing a year later. My point is that I think that a lot of this stuff is fucking trash, and it's not helpful. Um, it's not helpful information at all, and it's going to set you like in the wrong direction. And it's going to perhaps start molding your thinking around this sort of thing to where it's this like corporate paint by number sort of thing. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to start a gaming studio and become EA Games? Because fuck that. Like, those suck. Everybody hates AAA right now. What's the last good AAA game that came out? Like, like it's indie. Everybody's playing indie, and they're playing indie because indie developers, small teams or single people, do things because it's works of passion and not works of fucking designed by committee. What's going to make us the most profits? How are we going to fuck people in the ass for the most amounts of money? And so I think that the like my purpose for making this was it's just like experiment around a lot. Try all of the different engines. Game Maker is good for some stuff. Godot is cool in some ways, and but the tooling around Godot fucking sucks. And that was one of the big things. Like I might have just went with Godot if the tooling around it didn't fucking suck. You have to use this shitty integrated code editor that fucking sucks and is not flexible. And I use Vim bindings. I like to code in NeoVim. I don't need to be able to use Vim with it, whatever. But like, I don't. I have to click on everything to. I want to go here in my code. Oh, you need to use arrow keys. Well, I don't like that. I want to have the flexibility to do my own sorts of things that are like that. And Godot doesn't have that ecosystem around it yet. Probably will in the future. It's becoming really popular. I'm not shitting on that or whatever. I'm just saying like my own personal preferences. And what I found was that, and then using Raylan. Okay, well, I'm have nothing now except Raylib itself that acts as a SDK that I'm interacting with the Metal API on Mac or whatever else. Um, but I'm building my ECS system like out of scratch, which is fun and stuff. But then I'm thinking like, and since I'm not a great software developer, I'm pretty sure that like an open source a community, the community that's building the Bevy game engine is probably smarter than me and probably knows how to implement an ECS system better than me. And I would probably benefit a lot from just like using that and learning how to use that efficiently. And then maybe in the future I could do a Raylib project or something like that when I more competently understand the inner workings of an ECS system, what works, what doesn't, like Bevy has this concept of queries that you have, which is like super cool. Which is a way that you can find components and stuff like that. It has the concept of an asset server, which you feed handles to, and you can get back like references to assets that you're putting into that you're importing into your game and stuff like that. Like it has a lot of these cool things that it's like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have just like read this file from some directory, and not created like a layer above it that makes it easier to work with or whatever. And so that like Bevy is like teaching me a lot of stuff as I'm using it. I'm getting into code in Rust, which I think is fun. And I'm confident that the like ECS systems and the fundamentals of the engine itself are like well implemented, better than I could do myself at least. And so but it took me all of this experimentation to like Unity, working with like .NET stuff and C#. I'm just like, fuck this, like that. It's not, that's a painful language to like I think Rust is a fun, um overly complicated language to use and to master and stuff like that. I think that C# is a fucking pain in the ass, overly complicated language to use. But that's just me. And there are better developers than me that are .NET developers that love C# and .NET and PowerShell and all of that stuff. Not everybody's different, and I'm not better or worse or smarter or dumber or anything like that, but it took experimentation and stuff, and I'm making significant progress still. Like it will maybe not as fast as if I like oh, I'm using Unreal and I went in on Unreal and Unreal's the only thing that I learned, and I learned how to do everything in Unreal and stuff like that. Like yeah, maybe I would have more forward progress if that's the approach that I took, but I wouldn't have enjoyed the process as much as I have, and I wouldn't have set myself up to thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. And another theme that I see a lot from these paint by numbers, do X, Y, and Z in a row, and this is your path to success types of content creators like these guys or whatever, is that they're just like, oh yeah, sometimes you just don't want to work on your game because you'll hate your game, It's like, well, I mean, if you've done the groundwork to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and the way that you're building your game is with 90% tooling that you enjoy interacting with, like so far, and I've been developing this for a while now. So far, like every day when I'm at work, I'm thinking of working on my game. I'm wanting to stay up too late every night and work on my game. I'm wanting to work on my game before I start my workday. And I know I have a long way to go, and I've worked on projects and languages and stuff like that that I like. That it becomes a slog after a while, and there'll definitely be ups and downs or whatever. But it's like you shouldn't go through weeks or months of like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like this sucks. Like that's your brain that's like telling you like, hey, maybe you're doing the wrong thing. Maybe you don't like what you're doing, and maybe you don't like what you're doing because you've turned a passion or maybe a passionate interest that you've had into this like corporate fucking formulaic slop that it's like, oh, I've got to churn out more sausage with the ingredients that I've been given, and I hate rotating the fucking sausage, machine or whatever. And and so yeah, my point with all of this is experiment around a lot. Um, use all of the engines, all of them. Love 2D is pretty cool. This Lua thing, somewhat similar to Bevy. It's not similar to Bevy really, but editor, etc. Interesting in many ways. Um, Unreal, Unity, Godot, Game Maker. Experiment with all of them, man. Raylib. My puppy's starting to yelp a little bit, so I'm gonna go spend some time with her in a second. But and figure out what works for you, what you like, why you like doing it. Figure out the game development process for yourself. Look at creators, take bits and pieces of information and stuff like that. But when it becomes really preachy, and they're just like, "This is what you do. This is what you don't do. This isn't going to be success." And not everything needs to be done the right way is something that I saw from Thomas Brush. It's like no, if you have a vision for what you want to do, then executing on that vision exactly like you are seeing it, so that way it could be this really fun thing that you create or something like that. Like it's art that you're creating. It's not a throwaway thing. So if you have a vision, if you have a clear vision in your head for what you want, you should execute on that perfectly and be true to yourself when you do it. And it's not going to be easy. And maybe you're going to spend too much time on something. Maybe you spend a week of dev time on some feature that seems silly or whatever. But who knows? Maybe you put out the game and it's these little touches and these little game feels and stuff like this yourself that you poured into the game to get everything just the way that you want it. That makes it appealing to other players. And for all the marketing shit and stuff like that, fuck that. Like, yeah, you need to put yourself out there, Twitter and all of this stuff. But really, at the end of the day, like so many games, like only up, the game only up. Some streamers played it, and some streamers played it, and they had tens of thousands of viewers that were watching their stream, and then they cut it up into videos, and there's a million people that watch those videos, and then that makes those games super successful or whatever. Stardew Valley, the concerned ape that created Stardew Valley took like what 7 years or 8 years or something like that to create that game. Reworked a lot of stuff, started over a few times, I think. Didn't paint by numbers, didn't follow any of the rules of these fucking people that make games that have maybe 500 downloads or something like that. Like they go their own way. They know the art that they want to create. They're passionate about it. They don't do it in the most efficient way. Art's not about efficiency. It's about creation. Um, and then those come out. So I'm gonna go play with my puppy now. Be true to yourself, make fun games, don't paint by fucking numbers, don't listen to people that are trying to tell you to paint by numbers. Really got to go. Have a good night. Peace out.